Welcome to Boston Territory, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here, day 2 of the winter meetings, and I am still having technical difficulties over here, and I'm having headwear difficulties. I don't have the hat today. I forgot the hat at home, so lucky for all of you at home, you get to see that I finally have a head of hair. I mean, my goodness, I can't even believe it, like John Heyman likes to say. But yes, another eventful day here at the winter meetings here today. Lots of updates, more so just talking points, really, but a couple of things, right? Kyle Schwarber coming off the board early this morning. That was a possible target for the Red Sox here at the winter meetings, and I predicted coming in, I thought he was going to sign. I thought his market was pretty much established at this point, and I mean, listen, there's only a handful of teams that need a lot of power out of the DH spot, right? A lot of those teams, they got to figure it out there, so I'm thinking to myself, all right, 5 teams in the mix, maybe 6 or so. I think he ends up signing, and he went back to the Phillies, just like I thought. Alex Cora said at the scrum today that he was, it was no surprise to him, and I don't think that was really a big surprise to a lot of people. The Phillies, Dave Dombrowski, this is what he does, right? He kind of just waits, he sits back, he reads the market, and when it's time for him to jump in, he does what he needs to do. Kyle Schwarber just meant too much to that organization, too much to the city, so not surprised, he went back there. I would have loved him with the Red Sox, would have loved to return. I always thought it was just too good to be true, to be honest, and especially when you would have had to give up the qualifying offer, the international signing money. I know you might roll your eyes at that, but the front office, they could care less what we think, and, they like that stuff. I think if they had the opportunity to get Schwarber, probably would have happened, but the fact that Cora said today that he wasn't surprised, I think the Red Sox, you could see, based off of the news reports we've been getting over the last few days, including here, it just felt like Schwarber probably wasn't going to happen because all the reports were coming out about these other players. So, not surprised about that. I think it was a good move for the Phillies. They needed to make that happen. But we got some things to talk about when it comes to, well, now that we know that he is off the board, right? All eyes have been on Alonso, and they're going to continue to be on Alonso at this point. Bichette, what's going on with him? I heard a little tidbit about Bichette here today. I got a little bit of a little something for you. I heard this with my own ears, and I don't think anyone else heard it. And I trust the man that I heard say it. So I got a little something on that. But we did get an update on Bichette from another source. I'll go over that. I've heard a couple of things about Bregman here today. Again, I'm doing my best out here. I'll be straight up with you. I'm not really the best when it comes to, being a source out there. I just haven't built the relationships with these people that are in the front offices. All these guys that come out with the scoops, it's because they've built relationships over the years and they've found ways to infiltrate, organizations out there. Me, I'm not there yet, but I've kept my ears open, and I've heard a couple of things, so I'll get to that on Bregman. We've also had something from Tim Healy of the Boston Globe putting out an article here tonight. Corey Seager. Corey Seager's name is popping up for the Red Sox. What the frick is going on? Corey Seager? What are we doing here? What do we got going on in the chat here? We got a lot of people here in the chat. 150 to start things off. That is a great number for Boston Territory here. Before we do start getting into everything, including a possible trade update on Ketel Marte. We'll get into that as well. Lots of possible trade opportunities out there. But if you can, hit the like button for me if you are finding us for the first time. Subscribe if you're new. Again, I had the camera set up. I actually figured out the camera. You know what the problem is, ladies and gentlemen? Why I'm looking like I'm on a Zoom call right now? Is because my laptop's not good enough. I got to get a better laptop. That's a learning experience for the future. So anytime we travel, I'll be ready to go. Got to get a new laptop. That's got to be the move. Here we go, everybody. Let's get to it. So let's talk about Pete Alonso. What the heck is going on with Mr. Alonso? What's going on with the polar bear? We need to see what is the latest. And actually, we just got a little something from Chris Cotillo and Sean McAdam. And that is the Red Sox. They are trying to meet with Alonso. And we did get something on this in the last couple of days, and it's funny that they put this in here today. Let's read it. According to an industry source, the Red Sox and Alonso have already met via Zoom prior to the start of the winter meetings. Not surprisingly, the Red Sox would like to meet in person. as they ramp up their pursuit of the top power hitter remaining on the free agent market. Plans were complicated somewhat Tuesday by high-ranking front office members battling cold flu symptoms and limiting in-person interactions throughout the day. I can tell you right now, based off of conversations that I had with a couple of different people, that is legitimate. I can confirm that. I will never just talk to anyone random out there. The people that I talk to, I make sure I trust those people. And the person that told me, that confirmed that for me, I will trust that man with anything when it comes to the Red Sox. But yes, I'm not going to name names, but there are there is at least one person in that front office that is not doing very well, and that they got themselves a nice little flu going on. So now when it comes to Pete Alonso, you might be thinking, well, at the end of the day, Robbie, right? Hey, you've got Pete Alonso on the board. It doesn't matter if you're sick, you're running a fever. You got to make Pete Alonso happen. This is we're in the big leagues here, right? It's going to be interesting how. Listen, I think there's a meeting that's going to happen. Sure, if someone gets sick, whatever. Bad timing. One way or another, I think there is a meeting that's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. They will make sure that happens. So with Pete Alonso, again, he is coming to the winter meetings because he lives in Tampa. Why wouldn't he? I talked about this yesterday. People were saying, oh, well, he's just only coming to the meetings to try and get a better contract, to, try and get more money. Well, it's kind of convenient for him. I've seen other players here. I saw Carlos Estevez here today. I'm not sure why Carlos Estevez was here at the winter meetings. A lot of guys just come here to hang out, right? You got guys like A.J. Brzezinski that are just, obviously he was doing foul territory today, but A.J. Brzezinski, right? Guys like to come around. They like to mingle, right? And you'd be surprised at how many different businesses are around that are coming in to sell products. Like there was a baseball glove company here. You got all these different agents that are in here. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just guys looking for deals and agents like Scott Boras looking to get his guys signed. There's a lot of other things going on. So Pete Alonso, hey, the guy wants to come hang out at the winter meetings. He has every right to. But hey, for his sake, why not have a couple of sit-down, meetings? Why not? You're looking for possibly a new team, and with the Mets, Edwin Diaz going to the Dodgers today. There was a report out. I went blank on where that report came from, but Pete Alonso and the Mets supposedly are. I'm not sure how close it is on the contract, but I saw a report that they're not willing to go over 3 years. So if the Red Sox are looking to, land some power here, and if they can offer a fourth, maybe a fifth year, depending on what, Boras is going to be looking for, they may be able to get something done. I wouldn't worry too much about this, this little update when it comes to the meeting. I think they will figure that out. Someone is definitely sick in that front office, but I think they'll figure it out in the end. Again, with Pete Alonso, I know it might seem obsessive at this point, but, when you just look at what the Mets are doing, right? The fact that they didn't want to spend the extra, $5 million to keep Edwin Diaz, right? He ended up going to the Dodgers for, an extra $5-6 million? What does that say about Alonso here? Are they going to go the extra mile to do what it takes to keep him in the fold? Based off of that, I don't know. I don't know, man. And I think the fact that Alonso is coming here to meet with a couple of different teams, the Orioles included, I think that says a lot, man. Right now, my head and my gut is thinking it's right now the Red Sox or the Orioles, and maybe the Mets are just hanging around. They're kind of, they'll try to get the last punch in. I think it's going to come down to the Red Sox and the Orioles. And I saw a lot of people here today talking about, the fact that the Orioles, they matched the offer for Kyle Schwarber. If that is the case, then, that could definitely mean they are willing to go the extra mile to, land that power. I think at the end of the day, if the Red Sox can come out with the top offer and let's say the Orioles match it, well, then it's going to come down to, what's the preference going to be for him? Where does he feel like it's going to be the better home for him long term? There's so many different factors that come into play with a decision like that. Not just you as the professional player, but lifestyle as well. What the message of the organization is, just the fit overall. Some guys just have different preferences when it comes to things. Even maybe different coaches on the staff. Maybe he has certain preferences. You never know. So I think if the Orioles and the Red Sox are close, I mean, I think, I'm trying not to be biased here, but the Red Sox, they've done well with their position player talent, and I think you could sell Alonso on the fact that, hey, we got the monster here. You're a guy that can probably hit 40, easily 40 home runs here. You could have a good career. You could have a good rest of your career here in Boston. So I would right now think the Red Sox, it comes down to the money in the end. I would like to think that they are in a comfortable position. I think they're in a good position. It's going to come down to, are they going to go that final 10%? That's the key. Let's say the Orioles throw down a certain offer, or where are the Red Sox going to go with it? We'll see what ends up happening. But the fact that, the Mets, if they're not willing to go 3 years, I would imagine since the Orioles were willing to go 5 for Schwarber, I think they're going to be, I would think at least 4 for Alonso or 5. It really depends. But I think it's interesting. I think the Orioles, we talked about them yesterday. You got Kobe Mayo in the fold. You got Ryan Mountcastle. Obviously, Alonso is an upgrade over either, but they're going to have to make moves with those guys if they did bring him in. So, yes, I think the Orioles offering Schwarber the 5-year deal, I think that could be a sign that they will be aggressive for Alonso here. Again, it's going to come down to if the Red Sox are close enough, I think they have a selling point there. We'll see what ends up happening. We will see. But there is more than Pete Alonso to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness, my laptop, I can't do this on a laptop, ladies and gentlemen. But we got a trade. We got some trade stuff to talk about here. And Ketel Marte, he came up a lot here today. John Morosi had he was on it. We all know John Morosi. He likes to throw a lot of stuff out there. I'm not going to get on to John Morosi about the Ohtani and the plane thing, but, that did happen, right, at the end of the day. But Ketel Marte, he is a name that has been popping up a lot for the Red Sox. There we go. I think that's the best I can do here. But taking a look, Tim Healy and Alex Spear of the Boston Globe all over it here. I mean, take a look at all this. The Red Sox have discussed Ketel Marte with the Diamondbacks, shortstop Corey Seager with the Rangers, third baseman Isaac Paredes with the Astros, and Brendan Donovan with the Cardinals. Now, hey, I talked about Brendan Donovan a little while ago, so I feel pretty good that one has come up. Brendan Donovan, I think, if Bregman doesn't come back, I've talked about him as a guy that I think would be a really nice fit with the Red Sox. And we'll see if that ends up happening. But Ketel Marte, that's an interesting one because John Morosi put out today that they are the leaders for him. Is that Morosi just trying to, get MLB Network some news, get the clicks going on Twitter? I'm not sure what that was, but I was told personally that there's not really too much going on with Ketel Marte right now. I talked with a couple of different people about that. Again, people that I do trust. I mean, it's there, it's out there, but I think Morosi made it seem bigger than it actually was. I'm not saying it definitely is there. I mean, they've had conversations based off of what people have told me. So how deep they go, I don't think it's as deep as Morosi made it sound to be. You have to be careful with John Morosi. He's going to kind of hype stuff up a lot. He's going to put that little bit of oomph on those kind of stories. Maybe the Red Sox are indeed, the leaders when it comes to acquiring Ketel Marte. Does that actually mean that they're going to? I mean, just because you might have the best offer, is that best offer something the Diamondbacks actually like? Is it enough for them? It's going to take a lot to get Marte. You're going to have to really send something back. You're going to have to send major league ready talent back, I think, both on the position player and the pitching side of things. You're probably going to have to put a prospect or two in there as well. Right now, I think if you did a two-player for one, I think, value-wise, Jarren Duran, maybe Brian Bayo, Cutter Crawford, possibly, but there's question marks with him. He still has value because he has a lot of control left. So, but you catch my drift, right? A good position player, throw in a pitcher that has control. Peyton Tolley, Connolly early. Listen, I'm not sure if the Red Sox are going to want to do that. I don't know. I think they are, based off of obviously the upside that Tolley has and what Connolly early showed you in the postseason. Listen, the fact that took the mound in the postseason in Game 3 in New York, and he was actually pitching pretty well. You can take a look at metrics and everything all you want, but and with him, he has very good metrics. But the fact that he showed that kind of a mentality, I think that really goes a long way. Listen, I don't think the Red Sox are going to give up Tolley or early unless it's like absolutely worth it. I think they're going to do everything they can to hang on to those guys. So for Marte, again, getting back to what Morosi said, could they be the front runners for him? Yeah, but just because you're in the lead doesn't mean you're eventually going to win, So, or you may not even have a winner in the end. Marte, I think, could very well stay with the Diamondbacks. Is a good player on a good contract. It's going to be tough to move. I did predict he was going to get moved, and we keep hearing the buzz. You never know. Day 3 tomorrow, anything could happen. But let's get to the other guys here. I mean, what Corey Seager. I'll talk about Corey Seager at the end, right? Isaac Paredes, that came out this morning, and then Brendan Donovan. That's a new one here. But we'll get to Alex Bregman here in a second. We'll get to the couple other stories, but I think the fact that you're seeing all these different names, the Red Sox, they're working right now. They are really checking in a lot of spots. So we'll see. Eventually, something is going to have to give. But I appreciate that, the Red Sox, they are covering as many bases as they can. No pun intended there. We'll see what ends up happening. But I'll get back to these guys at the end of the show here. All right, so let's move on here. Let me take a quick look at the chat. What is going on here? We got over 200 people in this chat. What's going on? How we doing? Green Monster 19. I want to have a Marte partay. That sounds pretty fun. I like that. My new camper, Schwarber, got 150. That's 30 per year, and he got as high as 35 AAV. Alonso isn't getting 5 year. Yeah, no, I don't think Alonso is going to get that. No, I think Alonso is, in my personal opinion, I think he's more around like a 25 million per year kind of a guy. Maybe you can get up to like 27, 28 maybe. That's just, I'm basing it off of performance, right? If you're taking a look at wins above replacement with him, it's kind of, he's right around like a 2.5 to a 3 win player on average, right? So, Boris is going to sell the home runs, he's going to sell the power potential, but it is what it is at the end of the day, right? So I think Alonso, you could see like, I don't know. If you, let's say a 4-year deal, I think you could see the getting more towards like 28. So, I think you could see something like 4, 110, something like that. I think that could be doable, but we'll see. 5, what's the math in my head here? Like 5, 125. I think that sounds right for Alonso. Something in that range. Fibs. Boris is so annoying. My goodness, what a crowd there was for Boris here today. Holy cow, that was a lot of people. And I was actually right near the front. I was very close to having front row seats to Scott Boris here. But as I was trying to get my microphone together, this is when everyone just swarmed. Unbelievable. Like, they came out of freaking nowhere. Like, everyone just, like, it was like white on rice. And all of a sudden I lost my front row seat. And so if you take your eyes off the prize, ladies and gentlemen, you can, I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, Scott Boris, you got to be ready. So Heyman, what's Heyman saying? Heyman just tweeted about Marte. Ladies and gentlemen, we got something cooking. What's going on here? Marte, what do we got? Wait, what do you got for me? Heyman. Everyone in the chat, please do not get fat fingers like me. Do not do it. It is very difficult to type. Heyman, here we go. Ketel Marte heating up. Red Sox, Mariners, Jays, possibly Phillies, and the Rays. How about the Rays? Nice $15 million per year contract. D-back seeking big package, understandably. Well, John Heyman, hey, the Red Sox right at the front of the list. I mean, listen, like I said, I've been told there are conversations happening for Marte. But I think at the time it was overblown. So I could absolutely see a world where the Red Sox are in the front of the pack, when it comes to possibly getting a deal done. You have someone like Duran. Like, no other team, not a lot of other teams can really offer that. When you have someone like him or Willier, whatever they wanted to do there, you have that. So, yes, you're going to be in the driver's seat to get a trade done if you wanted to. But this is where you got to, negotiations, right? When I had been told for the negotiation at the time that, it wasn't really anything serious, that could have been at a point where the Red Sox were like, okay, I mean, listen, you're kind of wanting a lot here. We're not comfortable with that. So at the time, I was told there wasn't anything crazy happening, but there were talks happening. So we'll keep our eyes on this. John Heyman, big tweet. I saw Heyman walking around earlier. If Heyman walks by, here's what I'm going to do. Heyman's walked by like 3 times over the last couple of hours. If he walks by, I might actually be tempted to be like, hey, Heyman, give us a little scoopy scoop here, huh? Give us a little something. But what do we think? Jen, do I think anything happens tonight? I mean, listen, we're past day 1. Once you get past day 1, anything can happen at any point. So I'm not really sure. Of course, something could. I don't know. The Schwarber-Diaz signings happened out of nowhere. Like an RKO from Randy Orton, just out of nowhere this morning. And then next thing I knew, I'm sipping on a coffee, and then I'm going live on my computer, and I couldn't find anywhere to set up. AJ, is he worth Marcelo Meyer? Listen, that's another one. Doesn't even have to be Jarren Duran. Marcelo Meyer, would the Red Sox? Could you imagine if the Red Sox offered Marcelo Meyer and the Diamondbacks, let's say they accepted that, and they had an infield with Marcelo Meyer and Jordan Lawler in it, both who were top 5 picks from that draft? Be insane. Phoenix, you like the wrestling innuendos. I know you do. Mighty Boston, last year in the middle of the night, War Pig came over in a trade. Yeah. Well, was that the middle of the night? No, that happened in the middle of the day. That was daytime, I think. I remember that was kind of around like noon, I believe. Damian, what if we did get Bregman and Marte and Alonso? Is it realistic with our cap situation? I mean, look, they have the money. I mean, they could do it if they wanted to. It's a matter of, do they want to? I think the Red Sox, they're going to be aggressive in any way they can, but I don't think they're going to stretch that payroll beyond like what the Dodgers are looking to do, and even the Blue Jays. I don't know if they'll go that far. My new camper. Is there any more talks about Teal? I had heard the one guy I was talking to today. That was there, but he told me, again, trusted source. He told me Edgar Quero, probably more likely. If the White Sox were to move someone, probably Quero. Kyle Teal's really good. He's very good. I would keep him. No, nothing against Quero. He could be decent. But let's move on to the next story here. We'll keep our eyes on the John Heyman story right there. Can we please be live for something that breaks? I need that. Could you imagine we're live at the winter meeting, something breaks as I'm here? Goodness gracious. But let's get to Alex Bregman. Let's talk about Bregman here. And, here's the things I've heard on him. Let's pull up the story. Goodness, I need my home studio. This is brutal using the trackpad. Anyway, but Bregman, Peter Abraham of the Boston Globe, crucial decision looms for Red Sox on Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso. The Red Sox are focused on bringing back Alex Bregman. That's their priority, according to sources in and out of the organization. Bregman is rightly viewed as an impact player, both on and off the field. The Sox view him as a crucial piece over the coming years. The Sox also have the opportunity to double down and sign first baseman Pete Alonso. It's not Bregman or Alonso. It could be both. That conversation has been had at the winter meetings this week, and it's not fantasy baseball. Listen, we talked about this coming into the winter meetings. We all thought, listen, you need 2 bats. You need to bring in a couple of guys. I mean, and then we heard the reports about all, the payroll stuff. We're like, okay, maybe only one of the big bats, right? So then we're thinking, okay, well, if it's going to be one big one and then a complimentary guy, could you do Jorge Polanco or Kazuma Okamoto or make a trade for Marte or Brendan Donovan, whatever however you wanted to go. But I still am of the firm belief that if you could get Bregman and Alonso on deals where the length of the contract is good for both sides, like if you can find a middle ground, I think that is really a great way to go. But I also see the advantage of doing a trade to get one of those bats as well, because you do have a lot of guys in the fold. You have a lot of pitching. You got a surplus in the outfield. So I do see the advantage of making a signing and then making a trade. So I see that, but I also just see simply like, okay, just go get Bregman, go get Alonso, keep it simple. Go use Duran to, go land some pitching, right? Duran and another pitcher, maybe to go after Cole Reagans or something like that. So I see there's a whole bunch of different ways you can go here. Now, with Alex Bregman, though, this is where we get a little hairy, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Murray, the Cubs met with Alex Bregman via Zoom a few weeks ago, sources say. He's had Zoom meetings with several teams this winter. So, with Bregman, and also here was another report from The Athletic, I believe, from Ben Nicholson-Smith. Bregman, 2 league sources said, could be a potential backup plan for Toronto if they fail to sign Tucker or Bichette. So that's interesting. The Blue Jays, I remember, popped up for Bregman last year. In the end, out of all those teams, he went to the Red Sox, and all those teams are once again showing interest. So the Cubs Zoom meeting, that's interesting. You got to remember here, you might think to yourself, oh, it's just a Zoom meeting, whatever. Well, remember, Max Fried, he had a Zoom meeting last year with the Yankees, and that went really well. And Michael Kay, I remember him talking about that. Michael Kay, he had sounded like it was like Christmas morning when he heard about the Zoom meeting. He was like, I was told the Yankees, Max Fried, they had a great meeting, a great Zoom meeting. And all of a sudden, Max Fried is with the Yankees, right? So, I'd imagine they met in person after that. But, listen, a Zoom call, that could be the first step. And I've talked about this with the Cubs, man. If you wanted to maybe move Shaw out to the outfield, he has a bit of versatility there. I think his athleticism could handle the outfield. If you wanted to go that route, Bregman could be a fit there. I think I see a path. It's just going to be a matter of how far the Cubs going to be willing to go. So, I don't know. I find that interesting. I don't know. From what I heard today, from how many people was it? Was it one? I think it was just one. Just one person today. Had a conversation, and he had told me, a guy that's, he's in the trenches out there. He hears a bit of stuff. He told me he wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox moved on from Bregman. Wouldn't be surprised at all. That would feel kind of bonkers to me because, I don't know, man. He just has Bregman is a different guy, man. Like, there's something that he brings to this team. This team was just different with Bregman. The Red Sox were different in 2025 with Bregman in the fold. You could look at the injury and you could look at all that, but there was a different aura about this team with someone like him in the fold. Right? He brought that veteran leadership. You felt it. So in the end, though, it is a business, and if you can't meet halfway, then you're going to have to go your separate ways, right? So again, that person that I spoke to, he said he wouldn't be surprised if they moved on. I mean, listen, I don't even need someone to tell me that. You can just look at all the reports being thrown out there, right? All these different things. Alonso, only one big bat, right? Looking at trades. Bo Bichette we'll talk about. So I don't know, man. That's interesting to me. I'm not really sure what to make of the Bregman thing. It just feels up in the air. I keep going back to the word leverage. I think you kind of throw that in there. You kind of keep getting back to that. I think the Red Sox are playing hardball right now. No pun intended. But I think that's what they're doing. They're casting a wide net. and they're just they're going about their business, and they're hoping Bregman can maybe wiggle down. We'll see what they do. But I didn't really hear any positive things about Bregman for today. So, moving on here. Let's talk a little bit about Bichette. Let's talk a little bit about Bichette. And we had gotten this report from Julian McWilliams, and I believe, just to make sure I give proper, of CBS Sports. He put out here that the Red Sox are not in on Bichette unless his market changes. This is what I heard today. This was a guy, I heard him, I was being a little nosy. I'll say that. I was kind of sitting down, I was, looking at my phone, and I happened to see a guy that used to be with the Red Sox. He's older now, right? But he was with the Red Sox a little while back. You would know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say the name, but he used to be with the Red Sox. And I basically heard a conversation that, they're trying for Bo. That's what I was told, or that's what I heard him say. They're trying for him. Didn't sound like a confident thing. That's all it was. He said they're trying. But the fact that someone asked him, like, hey, any hearing anything on Bo? And he said they're trying for him. I know that's just there's not really a whole lot to that, but the fact that it was brought up to this guy again, he was with the Red Sox a little while back, but I think that's interesting. Something to keep an eye on. But Julian McWilliams just saying here not too long ago, they're not in on him unless the market changes. So maybe you could tie that in a little bit. They're trying, but maybe he's getting a little too pricey for what they're willing to pay him or what they're willing to offer him. But Bichette, listen, that's a guy where if you bring in Bichette as a, possible replacement, to me, if you bring in Bichette, I don't think Bregman comes back. That's kind of the way I'm at. That's my thinking. Because I think you need to get just a good all-around bat that is going to make a good amount of contact. That's, he's going to get the bat on the ball. He's going to be just a good hitter in your lineup, right? And then I think you need to get one guy that's going to provide that big pop, right? So I think you need one of each. So to me, like Bichette and Alex Bregman, I don't really see that. I think one of them with a big bopper, right? And then we get back to the conversation, right? How much are they willing to spend on, a couple of bats? We'll see. What did Katie Woo say? Katie Woo. Is there something happening here? Because Katie Woo is now with the Dodgers. Katie Woo. What do we got? I've seen Katie Woo like a million times here in these meetings. Katie Woo. Within this story, hold on. Oh, what do we got? The Dodgers remain in the mix for Kyle Tucker, though the club is unlikely to offer a 6 or 7 year deal. A 3 to 4 year deal, similar to what Bregman took last year, would be in play. I've talked about this. If we do, there's not really anything new. We've heard this story. I think that could be a possibility, right? If the Blue Jays, if it's kind of like Bregman, right? Bregman wanted that long-term deal, right? The Tigers offered him what, 6 and 170 or whatever it was. It was like 28 per year, and he didn't find that enough, so he took the short deal with the Red Sox. Could that be a similar situation with Tucker, where that's a guy where a lot of people has thought, he could get over, over $400 million, close to $450. I was at one point where he was playing so good this past year, I think he could have been $450 to $500. So, we'll see. But if he doesn't get the offer that he thinks is satisfying, could he take a super high AAV deal? Like, I'll be honest with you, if you did, a short deal for Kyle Tucker, let's say a 3-year deal, that's a guy that's like a 5-WAR player. You could offer him like $50 million per year, because you got to remember, one win above replacement, that's worth on average around $9 million. So if he's a 5-WAR player, that's a $45 million value. So if the Dodgers said, hey, we'll give you 3 years, $150 with an opt-out, could he do that? Honestly, if you're Tucker, I think you think about that. You have a chance to especially if you can go to the Dodgers for 1 year and, you can opt out and go help them go for the three-peat. That could be intriguing for him, So we'll see. But then, why am I talking about Kyle Tucker here? Because that could involve the Blue Jays. If the Blue Jays, who have been listed as as of late, a favorite for Kyle Tucker, if they don't give him the offer that he's looking for, well, then he could pivot, go to a team like the Dodgers, and that could open up the door for Bichette, who could just go back to Toronto. So you're kind of waiting for this market to unfold a little bit more. Schwarber coming off the board definitely gets things rolling a little bit more. But, especially because of the Orioles, they were looking at Schwarber, right? The Mets were involved as well. So this kind of opens up the door for those guys. And the Orioles have, the Alonso connection as well. So we'll see. Alfredo, also in that article, she talks about a possible Skubal trade. What's going on with Skubal? Who was the guy yesterday that tweeted about Tarek Skubal? Who was that? He posted some video. He put I'm hearing Skubal's going to the Dodgers. He even tagged Skubal in the post. And I'm thinking, first off, who the frick is this guy? Never even seen him in my life, but he's here at the winter meetings. And he's tweeting about the Tarek Skubal trade. So let's see what's going on. Katie Wu. I'm taking a look-see. Let's get back to the main screen here. That is not the right screen. Here we go. There we go. That's the right screen. Let's see. I cannot find this article. What did Katie Wu say about a Tarek Skubal trade? Why not pursue a trade for Skubal? I'm not going to take too long on this because we're focused on the Red Sox right now. Skubal is probably even less likely. I would definitely say I can't look at this article right now, guys. I'm sorry. I do appreciate you letting me know, but I'm not going to be able to dive into that too much right now because we are live. We're talking Sox. So Bo Bichette, I was told today. Well, I was not. I heard today that they're trying for him, but sounds like, especially after seeing that tweet, maybe not so much, or probably not in the cards. At least as of right now, not in the cards. We did have a move here today, ladies and gentlemen. We did have one move. Also, one more thing on Bo. I forgot to share this. Let's take a look. Again, I don't know how people use laptops. I don't get it. But there was a Zoom meeting. Again, another Zoom meeting here. Gotta love the Zoom meetings. But the Red Sox did have a Zoom meeting with Bo Bichette recently. So, they seemed impressed. The Red Sox, they seemed to like Bo Bichette. Son of Dante Bichette. Gotta love that. But there was a move here today, ladies and gentlemen. Vaughn Grissom going to the Angels. I know, blockbuster move. With Vaughn, there was really no path. They got him back in the Chris Sale trade. People are going to look back at that trade as an all-timer, that one of the worst of all time. In the end, the Red Sox, they were, Breslow came in. They were kind of looking to clear the slate a little bit. He needed a bit of a fresh start. Sure. Would I love to have Sale still in the fold? Yeah. But it is what it is. So they get back Vaughn in that trade. Hold on. What just happened? Okay, it's just Ken Rosenthal retweeting. But yeah, Vaughn Grissom, he got that little bit of an opportunity, but he was getting injured and he just never really got it. He never really got himself on the right track, and then everyone else in the Red Sox organization just gained steam on him. Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, and they bring in guys like Nate Eaton, Romy ended up being a big contributor. So there was just really nowhere for Vaughn to go. I hope he gets a better opportunity with the Angels. This is a guy, he's been viewed highly, going back to his, time with the Braves. We'll see. But if there is a team that if there's one team he could have an opportunity with, it's the Angels. We'll see. But the Red Sox did get back minor league outfielder Isaiah Jackson. Taking a look at the scouting report with him, he was drafted just this past year. He was the number 179 prospect in the draft. Not a great hit tool. There is a lot of swing and miss with him. There is some power upside at a 50. He's a good defensive player, though, in the outfield. Decent arm. A guy that hit pretty well back in his college career. Back in just this past year, hit .310, OPS above 1,000, 18 homers, 14 stolen bases as well. He did cut down on the strikeouts this past year. He upped the walks, but he had a massive strikeout rate over 10 games, 35%. So, there's something there. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But, more so the story is Vaughn. But that's really not even a story in itself. We're all kind of just waiting for that to happen. So, we will see. All righty, everyone. Let's get back here. I'm going to take a look at the chat. What do we got going on here? What do we got? Morosi. What did Morosi tweeted about? Second baseman heating up. Morosi, what do we got? What has Morosi got on the table now? Let's see. Multiple second basemen are being discussed in trade across the industry tonight. Brandon Lau's name is a popular one. Sources believe the chances of a deal involving him have increased this week. Yeah, so I would imagine he means Ketel Marte in that. I would imagine Brendan Donovan is coming up in that. So, yeah, John Heyman, John Morosi, they're both hearing some stuff. So, we'll see. Oh, also, Corey Seager. Let's talk about this one. I know a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, Corey Seager. I don't see Corey Seager happening. I don't see this happening. So let's just get rid of this one. Yes, he is a good player, but he's on a massive contract. With Seager, big problem is that he's had a lot of injuries, right? Once again, having injuries this year, 102 games overall. He was a good player, a 4-WAR player. That is very good. But the problem is the injuries, and that's not going to help his projections long term. You kind of wonder, what is he even going to be like once he starts getting into, age 34, 35 territory? What's going to happen there? This is a guy that's on a 10-year, $325 million contract, making over $30 million per year. The Rangers are going to have to eat some of that contract. Yes, he is good, but you worry about the possible massive regression towards the latter half of the deal. That's something you have to consider with Seager. I don't see it. I think, honestly, that was a kicking the tires thing. I don't really make much of it. I wouldn't really dive into that one very much. I think it's more just kicking the tires. So, Corey Seager with the Red Sox, could that be fun? Sure. I don't really see it, though. You could have Seager, he's a guy that could move over to third base. That I think you could see that. He's a bigger guy, right? 6'3", so he has that third baseman mold. But he's stuck at shortstop, right? That was a thing with Seager a long time ago. People were saying, hey, he could be a third baseman like A-Rod, right? A-Rod was a shortstop. He moved over to third. You could see that. But I don't think Seager's going to happen for the Red Sox, personally. What do we got going on here in the chat? Hey, we got a super chat coming in. Bay Sox Bombs 23. Do the Red Sox trade for number 2 starter, and of who? I think... listen, I keep thinking about Cole Reagans. I do. I think it's going to be interesting. It's really hard to say right now because the focus is the bat. That's what they need to do. That is what they need to take care of. They have a lot of pitching in the fold, right? They got Sonny Gray. I'm not saying he's the answer to the number 2 spot. I think they view him as a guy that could definitely fill it. But, could you use another upgrade? Sure. If it ends up helping you kill 2 birds with 1 stone by kind of creating more flexibility with the lineup, but then also upgrading your rotation, then yeah, I think you could see it at some point. I don't think it's going to happen now. I think you got to figure this offense out first, and then you revisit that down the road once the smoke has cleared a little bit. And, listen, I got my eyes on Cole Reagans. I think that's a guy that's possible. Mackenzie Gore, could that be a possibility? But then again, I'm looking at the prospect of trading Duran or possibly Willier, to be able to land that number 2 guy. And I think that could, let's say you make the move for Marte. What if you got to give up one of those guys? Well, then I don't know. So that's where you kind of have to take care of this first. This is the bigger need. So we'll get back to the conversation after the dust has settled when it comes to adding a bat. Because if they move Marte, well, who are you going to give up for Marte? Right? Because he's going to cost a lot. So we'll see. Do you know if Sandoval is healthy enough to make opening day? By all accounts, it looks like he's going to be ready. Part of me wonders about Sandoval because they have so many guys. Is that a guy they could maybe use like out of the bullpen? You know what I mean? I don't know. He was a starter, obviously, his whole career. But do they use him in like a different role? You know? Is he going to be a guy in the rotation? Bay Sox bombs 23. Hearing anything on the Tatis trade? I haven't heard anything. I have a friend here that I've spoken to. He's into. He's got some guys out there in Yankee land. He hadn't really heard anything with the Yankees on Fernando Tatis, so there's that. So I haven't really seen anything on that. To me, when I saw that report that the Padres are looking to make big moves, like Juan Soto level trades, I took that as like they're trying to get some headlines. That's the way I saw that, right? Like Morosi put that out there. I think that was a way to kind of get some juices flowing a little bit. So we'll see. Jose, do you think Ketel? I think you meant to say Ketel. I think Ketel could happen. Sure. I mean, it depends on the D-backs are going to ask for a lot. So, I mean, if they're going to ask for like Duran, Tolle, and another guy, then that's not going to happen. You know, they got to meet in the middle. Anthony, I feel like people aren't talking about Oviedo enough. He could be great. That's a guy. Yes, he could be. That's the key word, could. The metrics are there. He's got the frame. He's got the stuff. It's a matter of putting it all together. So it's a big could. I look at him as he's like a high floor project, if that makes sense. Like you could definitely go with him. What I mean by project is, can you really get him to that next level? I think floor-wise, he can do pretty well. But can you get him to be like, a 3 in the rotation or like a 2, Maybe not, probably not a 2, but could you get him to be like a really good 3, Sam, what does the Marte haul look like? I think you send back either Duran or Abreu or Marcelo Meyer. I think that could be intriguing. So I think with Meyer, and that's not me wanting to do it, I just think about the value that he has. And, you have other guys, right? If they end up, if they get Ketel Marte and then they bring back Bregman, well, then where does Meyer really fit at that point? So could you send back Meyer, and that gives them an everyday option at shortstop, right? And then you got Perdomo in the fold, and then you got, Jordan Lawler, obviously, so you can make that work in some kind of an alignment. So I think Meyer could be a possibility, That's my own thinking. That's just speculation on my part. So I think you could do maybe one of those 3. You involve some pitching. The D-backs need pitching. So I think a cost-controlled, at least high-floor guy for the rotation, preferably with ceiling. That's why I think they would love Early. They would love Tolle. So I think, a bat that they can put back into their lineup, preferably cost-controlled. And then same thing with the pitching. You're going to have to give up a decent amount. So that's what I think. Could you just do it as like a 2 for 1? Or would they want more in there? Would they want like a 3 for 1? Because you got to remember the contract. That is something, yes, it's $15 million per year, but it's still a contract at the end of the day. So do you think Ketel would be a Red Sox tonight? My feeling is probably not. I would say no. I feel like if that does happen, it'll be tomorrow. Again, that's what I was told today about Marte. Sure, they could be the front runners, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're on track to getting a trade done. So we'll see. Joe, Meyer should be untouchable. I definitely see the argument for that. I do. I'm more so looking at that you could use him in a trade. All right, especially if they bring back Bregman. D-Bobby, Okamoto market. The only thing I heard on Okamoto here today was there was maybe a possible connection with the Yankees. That's the only thing I've heard on Okamoto at all. So, Hector, BTV for Marte. Listen, Hector, I would love to. You know me. I like BTV. I like going on there. But for some reason, I tried using baseball trade values earlier, and it wasn't working on my laptop. This laptop stinks. I hate this laptop. I got to get something different. So, Jose Abreu, the perfect trade is Jaron, Kyson Witherspoon, Luis Perales. I mean, listen, I think I've talked about this too. You know, you go back to when they traded away Braden Montgomery. They had just drafted him, and then they used him in the trade for Crochet. Could they do the same thing with Kyson Witherspoon? That's a guy where you look at the scouting, and you look at what people have said about him. He's a guy that can move quick through that organization. So I think he could be a possible trade piece, especially with all the pitching they have. So Joe, love Bregman, but I think he wants too much. I mean, listen, players are going to want a lot at the end of the day. They're going to want the bag. They're going to want the moolah. It's just a matter of can you meet in the middle? We'll see. He may indeed want too much, right? The Red Sox may be holding firm, right? What they offered last year, I mean, maybe they don't want to go further past that. Maybe they're only willing to go 4 years for Bregman. Maybe he wants 5. If another team gives him 5, like I keep saying, sure, like the Cubs, maybe there's not really a great fit. But if they offer him a 5-year deal, they figure out Matt Shaw, they move him outfield or whatever. Nico Horner is going to be a free agent soon. Maybe they move him. I don't know. There's ways the Cubs can make it work. But I think it comes down to if a team offers him a 5-year deal, that is going to be. And if the Red Sox are not willing to go past like a 4th year, I think in this situation they could go a 4th year. But will they go a 5? I don't know. The Red Sox seem to be they don't want to go that length. I think they're okay with offering the money. I think it's more so the length that they're afraid of. Can the Red Sox prospects outbid other teams for Skubal? I think they could. I don't think they will, though. I don't think they're going to want to. Brett Baseball. If we traded Marcelo, I hope it doesn't affect the dynamic of Roman. They seem close. At the end of the day, I mean, sure, younger guys like that, I'm sure they'd be bummed out. But that's Major League Baseball, man. If Marcelo Meyer ends up getting moved, that's the business, At the end of the day, you'd all love to, be together, be friends, and but I don't think it would affect Roman long term as a player. I don't think that would be anything. So, everybody, I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If we do hear anything else, I will be live again. I am ready. I am ready to go live whenever there's something cooking. I'm ready to just get on here. I'm ready. I was ready for Schwarber today. Diaz, that happened right after. But if anything does happen, I'll be here. I got everything set up. Even if I got to go live in the bathroom, I'll do that. Even if I got to go on my phone, I will do it from my phone, even if I have to do that. So, but I'm going to wrap it up right there. Boston Sports in the chat. Saw you talk to Cora today. Yeah, I was able to get a question in for Cora. That was my first ever media scrum. It was so interesting because I've watched so many of them in the past, and but then being in one, it's like, what is happening right now? It's such an out of box experience. Or out of fish out of water experience. It's weird. But that was really cool, though, being involved in the scrum, being able to ask a question. And Chris Cotillo actually wrote an article based off of the question that I asked. I asked, what did he think about Kyle Schwarber, signing with the Phillies? So I'm glad I inspired an article out there. Everybody, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to get going here. Again, if anything does happen, I'll be ready. Even if I got to go from my phone, I'll be ready to go. So, but everybody, go have yourself a good rest of your night. If anything happens, I'll see you soon. If not, I'll see you tomorrow.